With Iran's internet all but completely shut down overnight, only this morning have new images of these nationwide protests been uploaded to the world. Most dramatically, the heart of Tehran last night, seemingly given over to protest, government buildings on fire, along with motorcycles, and the chants, familiar from days now of protest, getting louder. Some calling for freedom, others for death to the supreme leader, others for a return of the exiled crown prince. Notably, Iranian state television was broadcasting its own coverage, perhaps to portray these protests as riots, perhaps because their scale is simply undeniable. Iran's government has so far publicly accepted economic grievances as legitimate, but threatened to put so-called rioters in their place. Today, the supreme leader accusing them of working for Iran's enemies.
Last night in Tehran and some other places, a bunch of vandals showed up and destroyed buildings belonging to their own country, just to please the US president. The Islamic Republic was established with the blood of several 100,000 honourable people, and it will not back down in the face of those who engage in destruction, nor will it tolerate mercenaries serving foreign powers.
President Trump on Fox News overnight speculating about regime collapse and repeating his threat to take military action in support of the protesters.
In the past, they've started shooting the hell out of people, and all of a sudden people without any weapons whatsoever are standing there and you have machine guns gunning them down, or they take them to prisons and then hang them and kill them. So they played rough, and I said, if they do that, we're going to hit them very hard. Well, we're going to hit them hard. We're ready to do it. If they do that, we're going to hit them hard.
The images emerging this morning, which we haven't been able independently to verify, suggest the scale of the protests continues to grow, as does their spread across the country. So how serious a threat to the Islamic Republic does this crisis pose compared to those it survived before?
So in all these movements, whether in 2009, when the demands were fully political, the Mahsa Amini uprising, which was a feminist movement, or now, when the nature of the protests is economic, the survival of the regime has been threatened, and ultimately one of these movements will succeed, and the regime will fall.
Today in southeastern Zahedan, Friday prayers spawning more protests, more chants of death to Khamenei. Security forces responding with tear gas and rubber-coated bullets, but little sign so far that the regime's words or actions are deterring the protesters, set for more mass demonstrations across the country this evening. Well, joining us now is Raha Bahraini, a human rights lawyer and researcher on Iran for Amnesty International. Thanks very much for joining us. Now, despite the internet shutdown, more and more images of what happened last night and indeed into today have been emerging. I mean, what do you make of them? What are you seeing in these images?
The protests reached a turning point last night with hundreds of thousands of people across the country pouring into the streets despite a deadly crackdown that has been underway by the Iranian authorities. We have been investigating the security forces' response to the protests over the past week. We have talked to dozens of informed sources, including witnesses, protesters, victims, journalists, and human rights defenders, and they have described how the security forces have repeatedly used assault rifles, shotguns loaded with hunting ammunition, water cannon, tear gas, and beatings in order to disperse, intimidate, and punish largely peaceful protesters.
Well, what does it say that despite the sorts of tactics your sources are telling you about, the protesters are still out there? Is it because of the depth of the economic difficulties at the moment? Is it because of Donald Trump's promise to come to their aid should things get sufficiently bad? I mean, what's motivating this scale of protest in the face of those sorts of tactics?
So these protests did not happen suddenly or overnight. They are the result of years, actually decades, of economic decline, deepening poverty, state mismanagement of essential services, including lack of access to water and electricity, and relentless brutal political repression. People are united behind one call, which is the downfall of the Islamic Republic system and a political transition to a new system that would respect their human rights, dignity, and freedom. The Iranian authorities are just using their well-honed machinery of repression in order to punish and wipe out dissent, but it appears that people have had enough. We documented the killing of at least 28 protesters and bystanders in the course of just 4 days alone, in the early days of the protests between the 28th of December and the 3rd of January. The authorities plunged the country into a total internet blackout. We are extremely concerned that amid this internet shutdown, more killings might be on their way, and the authorities are trying to conceal their crimes from the international community.
What does it say that we are still seeing quite a lot of videos and information coming out? I mean, there are reports that people have smuggled Starlink equipment into the country. Are people finding new ways to get round that kind of internet shutdown?
There is a wide network of human rights activists and journalists on the ground, and they find their way of passing on information. What is important, though, is that despite this limited access to information and video footage since last night, the protests remain in the spotlight of international attention.
Well, I mean, one world leader who is still talking about it was talking about it overnight on Fox News, Donald Trump, repeating his threat to take military action if, in his words, the Iranian regime started machine gunning down unarmed protesters. He also was speculating about the potential collapse of the regime, about Khamenei looking for a route out of the country. Is it too early to be talking in those sorts of terms, or do you think that there is an existential threat now?
For the international community, the most effective measures that they can take is to mobilize jointly and put pressure on the Iranian authorities to stop the bloodshed, to stop the use of firearms and unlawful force against unarmed protesters. Iranian human rights defenders need this kind of international support and pressure on the Iranian authorities to release the hundreds of people who have been arbitrarily arrested in recent days. They are at grave risk of torture and other ill treatment. Children as young as 14 years old are being held incommunicado without access to their families. So in this context, what is important is urgent diplomatic action, putting pressure on the Iranian authorities.
But in terms of the internal pressure that's being placed on the regime by these protests, has it got to the level that it really does threaten the regime, which has proven so adept over so many years, so ruthlessly in prolonging its own survival?
There is something different this time based on information that we are receiving from people on the ground in terms of the number of cities across the country that have taken into the streets, which includes both large cities and small cities, and the fact that various sectors of the society, from merchants to socioeconomically deprived communities, to human rights defenders, to the middle class people in big cities, they are all in the streets.
All right, Rahab Bahraini, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.